I've mentioned in the previous 2 videos that I aimed on making multiple videos on characters that are potentially playable. This is the last one that has been alluded to, that hasn't been dripped. And I think that if she isn't playable, I'm going to be very upset. March 7th, 5-star. But I think it's likely that she's going to get an alternative title like Imbibe Alune got, or an alternative name like Dan Hung potentially has with Terravox. So I'm gonna call her Evernight because she is associated with it because of a connection to the Titan in the story. I think it's logically, I don't think anyone could debate with me the potential of this girl being a Remembrance character 5-star. It'd be very bizarre if she wasn't. Thematically, she's been associated with ice throughout the entire game. There was only one alternative moment where she wasn't, which was her hunt path where she has imaginary as a typing. So I think that she has the potential of being a DPS that is tied to Remembrance. I think her scaling is going to be directly associated with having other Remembrance characters available. The reason why is because Remembrance is so core to a story, it would be a way to force people to pull on characters like Serene in order to make her good. If March ends up a Remembrance DPS, I could see her team comp being something akin to March, Serene, Remembrance Trailblazer, and Hyacinth. And that would maybe be a what-if scenario on what her best comp could look like. And that's if there wasn't potentially long-term another Remembrance support given that did a better job or provided something different from both the Remembrance Trailblazer and Serene. So we have her basic effect in her boons, Dream of Long Nights, which for every ally target on the field, final damage is increased by 5%, up to a maximum of 40%. Because of course you're getting 5%, have up to 8 ally targets that can be on the field at a time, because if you have a full Remembrance comp, you're going to have your main DPS, their Memo Sprite, your support, their Memo Sprite, your other support, their Memo Sprite, your sustain, and their Memo Sprite. 5% for each. So we've already got an established connection to the idea of mono Remembrance comp. Advanced Enhancement, Silence of the Dawn Stars, which increases the final damage by 20% of ally targets. So she scales up the team's damage. Dwell of the Night Breeze, for every ally target on the field when entering the night, increases ally target's final damage dealt by 8% for 2 turns. Another damage increase that relies on more allies being on the field. So another hint at mono Remembrance. Weeping of the Night Veil. After an ally target uses an attack during the night, deals extra additional damage equal to 18% of their combined HP value of an ally target. This implies HP scaling, like Castoris, which is interesting and kind of bizarre, but I'm also not against it at all, and it makes her synergize quite well with things we know about other characters, other existing characters that we've already received. For example, Hyacinth. We have also the potential of Terravox working in synergy, because he scales on his HP as well, and gives shielding based on HP. Then we have the ultimate enhancements, which includes Dreams of Future Sight, which, outside of reducing the switch interval of day and night, can also increase ally targets' final damage by 30% for 2 turns. We have Dream of Retro Sight, which makes it so the buff applies on both day and night. And then we have Dream of Atonement. When all ally targets become departed, disappear, or become down during the night, increases final damage dealt by all target allies by 15% with a maximum of 60% in one day and night period, and it resets when day and night changes. This one is interesting because it applies to Feign unintentionally. I think the aim of it specifically is to apply to the loss of Memo Sprites when they disappear off of the field after their duration's up. So if you have multiple of them, you can just repeatedly get this effect of increasing damage. One thing that I think is very apparent is that her Memo Sprite is going to be a jellyfish. You can see it in the icon and the display image For this set of boons, for the character within As I've Written, there is a jellyfish. The jellyfish connection is actually very significant. Jellyfish appear in one of the light cones for Remembrance, one of the 3-star ones. And the Enigmata that was presumably born of the Remembrance also similarly takes the form of a jellyfish. So associating a jellyfish to her feels like quite a big nod. And then there is also the Remembrance mats themselves that actually seem to function similarly to the sort of organism that jellyfish are and other families of creatures like them. It's a fun connection back to the path and to the lore related to the path. So, based on these buffs, I think that she's going to scale on HP, which is very interesting because it makes her similar to Castoris. The question is it going to be based on the HP max threshold, like one of her boons specifically mentions? It specifically mentions combined max HP value. Is it going to scale on just her own max HP, which would be better? The fact is, it doesn't take into account the idea of HP changing for anything, like how Castoris does. She counts the changes in HP to increase her energy, essentially, to get her ultimate. None of March's boons associate with HP changes, it's just based on max HP. So what I'm imagining is a character who is HP scaling, the aim is to buff their HP as much as feasibly possible, who will either provide group-wide bonuses based on those stats to final damage, or boost herself based on that, who also will get damage increases based on the amount of Remembrance characters in the team. That is the best I kind of have, because we don't have... Most of her kit resorts around final damage. She doesn't mention true damage at all, which would make her heavily synergize with Serene, because Serene would maybe be able to give true damage, while this girl can't obtain it innately, maybe. But she can increase final damage, which would also be potentially affected. So we have a girl who can intrinsically buff herself for final damage, but will need ways to get other damage outset multipliers, like true, like extra stats potentially from supports. And the fact that this girl scales on potentially HP would actually make me wonder if Serene has the potential as well to do that, or if Terravox, if he was Remembrance and acting like a preservation unit, would synergize with her. Of course, there's no way to know, but it's fun to conceptualize anyway. Let me know what you guys think. It's just kind of the best I've got, because we have so little information to even go on when it comes to how this girl's kit could work. We have nothing in-game indicating what this character would be like playable outside of the boons, and outside of lore information. She, if anything, is the hardest to have thought about how she would work. Does the idea of that kit interest you? Let me know. And let me know if you think that she could work differently. And until next time, take care of yourselves. Thank you for watching. Bye, guys.